Hey, it's Drybear. The First Descendant devs went through a massive Q&A with community, and today I'm going to summarize everything that we had in there. There's a bunch of topics being covered, ranging from gameplay styles, future content, Season 2, what to do with skins and why they're exclusive, and everything in between. So let's try to run through these. I'm going to do my best to try and keep the video as short as possible, but I do want to cover all the topics in this specifically. So the first one is that the player feedback is that they want more hack and slash, run and gun styles, and I don't know why they're harping on this specifically. I think the idea is more around what's in the parentheses here, which is more monsters, faster pace, reduced travel distance, less running around, less waiting for spawns, less picking up special quest objects, and more fighting hordes of monsters and tough enemies while at a very fast pace, which is something that you'll see from some of its competitors. They responded with, "We're developing future content to align with this style to be more action oriented." I think the new defense missions align with this pretty well, with 500 enemies per wave, pretty intense. And we're taking feedback to it regarding the invasion content not fitting this approach and what they're going to be doing in the future as well. They got some feedback that the invasion content doesn't fit this style, that they do want hack and slash, run and gun, and doing puzzles just doesn't fit that specifically. So they said they're focusing our development on the new run and gun style. So they don't have anything specific around the invasion. And the fact that they're mentioning it this way tells me that they're probably going to be avoiding invasion content altogether in Season 2, because they said that they're focusing on the high octane gameplay and they don't have a response around what they're going to do with invasions currently. And with Season 2 just around the corner, it means they probably won't be including it in Season 2 at all. Players want more boss patterns, specifically around the frenzy state when they go immune, like the intermission and or hidden mechanics, just more variety with the bosses and more depth with the bosses as well. I think this is fair because ultimately once you're used to a boss, there's not really anything that can surprise you about it. It's more just about the teammates that you get and whether or not you're going to be able to complete it or not necessarily the boss encounter itself. So far we've been implementing patches to replace some boss patterns with new ones. Very light. New bosses will be added in the new content in Season 2, and we're preparing to introduce new monster types to the fields in Season 3. So that means we can't expect any new normal enemies in Season 2. Everything we have now for normal enemies is going to be the same, and there will be new Colossus battles, and this even includes the new Mega Dungeon, which means that the new Mega Dungeon most likely will not have any new enemies. It's the same three factions we've been facing all along for that, and they're going to focus on hack and slash, run and gun, which we'll have to see exactly what that means to them once they finally release it. Feedback: farming missions feel too long and tedious, and we'd like to adjust the mission duration or pacing. I think this is very much true. As we start adding more of the 400% dungeons and the positive feedback that they got for those, feeling way better than the normal dungeons because there's enough mobs to just keep the momentum going, and the new defense missions, which have thousands of enemies as well, all of that feels better. So they said that we've learned from feedback that players enjoy missions with constant monster spawns. This is good. We like this. This is the direction they should be going in, as long as it doesn't cause major performance issues. As a result, we've changed all missions to in the hard infiltration operators to extermination. I don't think this was a major change. I guess they're just kind of touting their own victories here, but it was a very small victory to boot. The big victory was the 400% dungeons and the new defense operations, in my opinion. We aim to create content with dense combat experience rather than just fast-paced progression, thus allow for hack and slash, run and gun. This is going to be like their new marketing term, I guess, putting those two together. Feedback is improve the grappling hooks, cooldown reduction, out of combat usage. Just being able to grapple better or more often, or definitely maybe even infinitely out of combat. And they respond with, "We believe the purpose of the grappling hook improvement is to enhance character mobility. All characters should be able to move with Bunny." And I think this is probably one of the few responses in this area that I think that is in a very concerning direction. I personally do not think they should try to homogenize all characters based on one character that excels at one specific thing. In this case, if you have long, sprawling dungeons with large distance between them, Bunny is going to excel at that because her claim to fame is ground speed. She can cover a lot of ground very quickly. She is very fast. I do not think that characters like Jaber or Kyle or Ajax should be going as fast as Bunny in any situation. I mean, you could try and do better options for teleporting to checkpoints or that sort of thing, and there's definitely feedback that having Bunny complete the dungeon before you even get there is bad, but I also feel like that's just Bunny is just good at the only kind of content we have right now. If we had more stand-in-place, King of the Hill style encounters or boss rushes with connected large rooms that weren't that big, like the distance between them wasn't very large, it was just room-to-room boss rush, then Bunny's ground speed would matter very little. So I'm very concerned about the response that they gave here, that all characters should be able to move with Bunny for a better co-op experience. Bunny often arrives first and ends the event before other characters catch up. In the current style of content we have right now, Bunny is not a problem in the new defense missions because you don't move. There's no distance to cover. There's no ground to cover. Bunny isn't a problem. So if you try to make Kyle go as fast as Bunny, just because she's good at the current dungeons, I think that's going to be an issue. We are considering improving the grappling hook or introducing new mobility skills or movement items in the medium to long term. We're working to improve co-op play. And I know this is a big thing for a lot of people in the community that they don't like. Some people, when they see a bunny, they leave. Some people, when they don't see a bunny, they leave. And I think that Freyna has proven that you can have a non-bunny character that has as much of a presence or impact as Bunny if you do it right. I think that this statement is very concerning, and I hope they don't go towards the perspective of trying to homogenize characters, because we only have really a small small number of styles of content in the game right now. Feedback has removed guided missile patterns and reduced the hit rate of common monsters. They did make some adjustments here, but I still think they need to do better about feedback as well. So this is like a lot of the elites and the big monsters that have seeking projectiles. I think that a lot of times those were either unavoidable and they would just curve around and hit you, and they also did a lot of damage. But I also think that those projectiles need to be looked at from a content perspective, because they are very difficult to see. They make no ambient noise as they fly around, so you can't hear them when they're coming towards you. Oftentimes when you get hit by these, you have no idea what hit you or from what direction or why. And I think a lot of the problem is partially the aggressiveness of the tracking, which they have reduced in the last update, but also just the feedback you get from these. They don't communicate to the player properly that they're there and that they're doing something, and I think that will go a long way in making these feel better. Feedback is add iframes to the role, and the devs just said no. We're not going to do this. We don't think it's necessary. You should have enough movement as it is. And I think this is definitely just more of a developer call. Should there be iframes or not? It's not a Souls-like game. Not having iframes in the role is definitely a little odd, but it is not something that breaks the game or ruins it anyway. It's more just about positioning yourself properly and preparing ahead of time. Feedback is increased HP and MP recovery out of combat, and the devs just said no. There's already enough of it. We'll review if we need more, but right now we're pretty happy with where it is. Feedback, make it easier to get ammo supplies, especially for, and I think the translation here should be high power rounds. We obviously have plenty special rounds, general rounds, and impact rounds. I think they just mean high power rounds for this here. So the idea that we need more purple style rounds for the purple style weapons, because there just isn't enough unless your name is Enzo or your name is Glay. That's the only way to really get enough ammo types or ammo for those without having to use them very sparingly, which kind of makes some of those weapons out of reach for some characters. So they are exploring ways to increase the utilization of, I'm assuming, high power rounds, and will implement improvements as soon as possible. Improve equipment swapping during combat. There are technical challenges associated with this suggestion, and we've tried to prevent equipment or module swapping from becoming a part of a build. And I think especially for a game that's on console, or probably has most of its player base on console, equipment swapping is not something that I think you want to encourage. Menuing in general, which is a speedrunner term for being able to open your menu, navigate your menu quickly, change gear, or use menu options while you're being attacked or in combat, is a very high level skill that some people just can't do on a controller. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of dexterity and preparation with your hands, and I think that encouraging menuing or quick swapping in combat on a controller is not a good way to go for the game, and I agree with their direction on this as well. However, since players sometimes start with wrong module setup, we see the need for adjustments, which I think they can just allow you to, like, during breaks, like at the start of a Colossus battle when you're in the spawn, allow you to change it in the spawn if you made a mistake, but obviously not during combat, and I think that's a totally fair solution. This is a big one that I think would go a long way. As long as there's no technical limitations, this one would go a long way to make the game feel better. Remove collision between party members for smoother movement. The game was designed with collisions between characters, skills, summons, and objects, so there are many aspects to review. While we have reviewed this in the past and did not proceed with any change at the time, we plan to revisit again. I think the big thing here is that they obviously have the ability to remove player collision because it exists in Albion. You can walk through other players, especially at vendors and crafters, and you can do that just fine. I think it definitely would go a long way because, I mean, the biggest example I always give is that when you spawn into a mission or into a Colossus battle, it spawns you in a diamond formation. If you're the back middle diamond person and there's 3 players in front of you, you can't even walk forward when the mission starts. You have to back up and walk around. Sometimes you spawn with 2 or 3 people around you and you have to jump to get out of the hole you're in because there's player collision. And I think that's just, it just feels weird for a game like this. I hate running into players on accident, slowing my character down or bumping into things. I hate getting blocked in corners where I go to loot something and someone's blocking me, or all kinds of things. I think it just creates a really weird situation for a looter shooter where they want to have hack and slash, run and gun, but you keep running into these pillars, like someone put a pillar in the middle of the map that you didn't see and you smack your face into it, and it turns out that it's one of the players near you, which you can't control where they're standing. They're always in the way, doing their own thing. So I think if there's no technical limitations, they should remove player collision during combat. Feedback: improved terrain features that interfere with run and gun gameplay in the fields. We are continuously refining the level design to enhance its quality. I think they should look at some of the maps that people like and do more of that, and look at the maps that some people hate, White Knight Gulch, Hatchery, and replace those and update those and kind of just use that as they go forward. I think, again, a lot of the level design in some areas just feel very weird. And it's also very evident when you do some of the invasion dungeons backwards, where you path backwards. I think a lot of those feel very awkward, and they should probably just try to make those better in the future. I know it was like a short-term thing to make the dungeon feel different, but it definitely needs some improvement. Terrain adjustments are included in every update, but due to the abundance of objects, some unaddressed terrain elements will still remain. We will continue to work on long term. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see how they do over time. Feedback: allow shooting while running instead of walking when moving backwards for a better sense of speed. We believe slowing down when moving backwards is appropriate for maintaining natural movement. Moving quickly while retreating can make it harder to see, which may lead to discomfort. We plan to keep it as it is, but we'll consider. I think the first statement is all they needed to say. I think that for quality wise, like slowing the character down when they're firing makes the animations look more natural and cleaner. You can see this with the new Albion cavalry gun where you move at high speeds while shooting. I think there can be abilities that do that and certain like stims and power-ups, but I think by default having a slowdown when you fire, as an ex-developer I can tell you, does make it look better, and there's ways to make it feel better, and that's on the designers and the programmers to make that work right when they're doing it. But I do agree that having some slowdown when you're firing, especially a fully automatic weapon, can make a big difference in the presentation quality of someone shooting, and I think that's fine. This one's just weird, saying, hey, it's the players aren't gonna like it because it will be harder to see and it may lead to discomfort. I think this is just silly. You can't really tell what a player's gonna like or not like in that case, but you know. Anyways, feedback. The early story difficulty is too high. I don't know if I agree with this. Making progression is challenging, so a reduction in difficulty is needed. I've never heard anyone say this, but again, I'm a content creator. My circle might be, you know, a little bit of an echo chamber on that front, and there's definitely people that they might have data that show people that start playing the game and quit playing the game because of the difficulty of it. I think a lot of it just comes down to understanding how to build your character. I tell beginners all the time, just get rifling reinforcement, action and reaction, or bullet integration, and max them out, and you'll be able to do enough damage to kill everything on normal mode without question. You can even get like 1 or 2 ability damage skills. Just get increased HP and increased defense, and then rifling reinforcement and bullet integration and action and reaction, and have nothing else, be no other modules, and you'll breeze right through the normal story. So this could just be like a systems problem, but they have been making lots of updates to lower the difficulty of normal mode. They've been nerfing bosses left and right, nerfing the dungeons left and right, so hopefully they'll reach a point where these complaints, which I'm sure are coming from somewhere, end up getting addressed. Feedback: content requiring initial learning should be more detailed and mandatory. like module enhancement. Offer rewards to alleviate the stress from such mandatory tasks. And I know there's someone in the chat, in my chat, that's going to say that they should make everyone solo every boss first before they can join a group, or make everyone do some like enhanced modules before they make a build and stuff like that. And there's definitely a lot of good support for that. Provide a support package to help with new player growth. Are they saying like put a support package in the store? Are people asking for more things to buy? The response is, we're preparing several support strategies. In Season 2, we plan to reward players with enhanced modules as they progress through the story. So they give you a leveled up module. I don't think this addresses this concern. If the concern is players aren't learning the core systems properly, I don't know if giving people an already leveled up module is going to solve that problem. We will also reduce the farming difficulty for Enzo and Glay. This is very good. They also need to do SEMO. SEMO is ridiculously difficult to farm for being a normal Descendant. To have more Descendants in the early stages and help them reach hard difficulty. Additionally, we'll introduce better guides, help features, blah, blah, blah. So they're just saying we'll do more and we'll provide more, but this is kind of like an ongoing thing. I don't see anything that's like, this is going to solve the problem, but at least it's on their radar. Feedback, add a feature to disable party member effects. This is something that I've been pretty big on since the game launched. This is something that we see a lot in MMOs where there's a lot of spammy effects. Obviously in a party of 4, it's not as bad as others, but I think it definitely can help, especially around weapons. Like if you have like a launcher Glay that's spamming rocket explosions, or you have anyone in your party that's using Greg's Reversed Fate, being able to disable those effects would be really great, or at least showing those as friendly versus enemy would go a long way. So I think they could definitely do that. The response is, we understand that visibility can be an issue when multiple effects occur simultaneously, and there can be optimization issues depending on the device. Absolutely, there can be some major performance problems with this sort of thing, depending on how expensive the VFX systems are in that case. To address this, we agree there needs to be a step-by-step feature to toggle effects on and off. However, simply toggling effects based on party members and oneself makes it difficult to identify buffs from party members, so we believe grouping effects for the on-off in stages is necessary. Although it's on the roadmap, yep, we will begin to discuss immediately due to ongoing optimizations, issues on devices after the 400% update. There's definitely a lot of issues with the combination of Freyna becoming explosively more expensive from a performance standpoint with her rework, as well as the 400% dungeon and defense missions getting more mobs. I'm sure they're running into lots of performance issues. There's definitely more crashes going on right now, so we'll see how that goes for them. I think that in general, they can just copy games like Final Fantasy 14, I think has the gold standard for doing this. It's like, you know, all effects, just party effects, you know, just like, you know, buffs only, just alliance effects or raid effects, local area, right? I think MMOs have done this extensively and have done this very well, and you can choose, and then you can go all the way down to the bottom of just my effects, I don't care, right? And I think that people need the floor, like just my effects plus buffs only, like things that affect me but no offensive effects for my teammates, just local area, that sort of thing. But realistically, you never encounter a party bigger than 4. Even in open world, it's 4 players. In Colossus, it's 4 players. In Dungeons, it's 4 players. It's always 4 players. Pretty much everyone's always in your party at all cases, so I think this is a very simple slider, but they do need to implement it. Feedback, improve the applied buff UI, as all the buffs are small and green, making them hard to distinguish. And I will add to this as well, not every buff in the game is represented. There's like a good 30 to 40% of the buffs in the game that have no UI element at all. You're just keeping track in your head based on the buffs, like strength and first shot. Plenty of other things just don't have any visual representation. So not only do they need to improve the buff UI with other like logic that you can control and dictate, but also make sure that everything that buffs you has a way to be represented in the game as well. We're working on better ways to identify buffs, and we plan to make improvements as soon as possible. Again, I think Final Fantasy XIV is one of the closer gold standards on this, because you can determine where buffs show up, when buffs show up, what priority, what order they're in. There's plenty of add-ons for like World of Warcraft that you can use that order buffs in certain ways, like buffs that only affect me, sort by time remaining, sort by if they came from me, sort by the source they come from. Being able to do that, I think, goes a long way. But I would say a higher priority than this is actually making sure that every buff in the game has a visual representation so you know whether it's working or not. Feedback, better Descendants and better weapon balance. So far, we focus on reworking specific Descendants and weapons in patch. And I would say this is definitely one of their strong suits. They've been doing this quite well. I would say almost every single rework has gone well for them. The last few, some of them are a little bit kind of weak sauce, but they're definitely in the right direction. But I would say Kingsguard Lance rework was awesome. Greg's Reverse Fate was awesome. Nizastra's Devotion, Enduring Legacy, Secret Garden, all of those went really well. The Freyno reworks made her super strong and made her very relevant, and a lot of people ended up loving her. So I think they've done a good job in buffing characters, and they just need to keep going on that front. Feedback, the low reward drop rates feel more difficult than they should. Please improve farming difficulty. This is a big one and probably the one I see more than any other. To address drop rate concerns in Season 2, we're introducing the target reward system. While certain items have a 20% drop rate, some players might obtain the item on the first try, while others may not get it even after 10 attempts. Wow, they chose a very small number for this. Like 10 is not really giving it a fair shake. I mean, I've had some materials that I had to pull like 92 times in order to get some things take a month or more to get. So after 10 attempts is kind of an understatement, you could say. Our analysis of server-wide logs show that the overall drop rates align with the intended 20%, but individual player experiences often do not converge to 20%, leading to variability. This is where pity systems are super important. The target reward system aims to address this by allowing players to select a mission and earn guaranteed rewards after a set number of attempts, a pity system. Additionally, we plan to offer enhanced shape stabilizers as limited time event rewards, which increase the chances of attaining rare items, this is kind of meaningless. They'll just give you more shape stabilizers through other events, but the big thing is that they are planning to do a pity system, hopefully for Season 2. Feedback, the overall storyline feels short or incomplete, and there's a desire for more. The story seems to progress at a certain point and then feels like it stalls. We plan to expand the main story with each season, and we're increasing our team size to deliver more story content. Our goal is to provide a richer storytelling experience, but of course, I think they're kind of showing that with their chapters. Even the character chapters feel really short, like the Bunny chapter and the Freyno chapter are pretty short. The cutscenes are really high quality and super good. They could definitely work on their non-Korean lip syncing because it's pretty bad. But overall, I think adding more cutscenes and more character connection is going to make this game a lot more powerful, because really that's what people care about. They love a certain character, they want to get to know that character, and they want to be, a little bit more connected to that character, and having more cutscenes and more story development is going to be a good thing. We'd like to see deeper stories explaining why characters are in their current situations, backstories, motivations. It's kind of like a repeat of this, but they do mention that in Season 3 we'll focus on Glay's story within the main plot. I feel so bad for Glay's daughter. She went missing. Glay's whole backstory is that she's looking for her daughter, and she's like, Mama's gonna come get you, but it took her 3 seasons to do it. So I don't really know what that says about Glay in general, but I guess we'll find out in Season 3 when she finally goes looking for her child. We've noticed that many players resonate more with the personal drama of the Descendants than the overarching storyline, which is true. Some players want a system where the story changes based on their choices. We're going Baldur's Gate at this point. This is a CRPG now. We don't believe offering choices and multiple endings aligns with the direction of the First Descendant, and I would agree. I think just having good story, let it play out. This isn't like a, this isn't a CRPG. This isn't some JRPG. Just let us see the characters and have cool cutscenes and explore that option. It doesn't need to be a branching storyline from that standpoint. I don't think they need to invest in like extensive narration and narrative development for this. As developers, we respect games with multiple endings and would love to attempt it ourselves, but we think it's crucial for the First Descendant to focus on what makes it unique, and I think this is the right answer. Feedback, we'd like to see new characters and abilities added as the current roster lacks diversity. I think they're just going to keep doing that. I think Haley added a little bit more to the game and maybe add more mechanics, hopefully not trying to make everyone run as fast as Bunny to make the game feel the same. We're exploring ways to introduce more new characters. As a result, we will introduce 2 new Descendants, 1 male and 1 female in Season 2. New Ultimate Descendant will also be added. So 1 new Ultimate Descendant, 2 new regular Descendants. Interesting. We'll continue our efforts to bring more diverse and innovative Descendants. It's probably just going to release Scar and then 1 other character they've been working on. But 1 male, 1 female, new Descendant. Hopefully they launch with their red mods, and they find better ways to collect those Descendants than the current, because I feel like Haley's drop just wasn't as good. But also, like, I don't know what they're going to do with Haley, because Haley's one of the strongest Descendants in the game, and she was so without any red mons and without an ultimate form, which is kind of crazy. Feedback, adding characters that enable more diverse combat styles, especially characters specializing in ranged attacks, support abilities, and co-op play. We hope to see more unique characters with complex skill mechanics or specialized combat styles. I would definitely agree with this. I think there's definitely going to be a ceiling to how complicated a looter shooter character can be, but I definitely think they have not explored that extensively. And I think they also need to do a better job of allowing the diversity of the characters that exist to inform their balanced decisions. For example, I think Drybear, who's someone who is very stationary, he can't move very often, his turrets are locked in place, and his styles are a little bit more delayed. I would expect to see someone who's a lot less mobile to do significantly more damage in one location than characters like Bunny or Freyna, when that just isn't the case right now. Same thing for like SEMO. If SEMO is going to be the kind of character that has a lot of animations that slow down his damage, you would expect the damage to be much higher, and I think in those cases they need to actually balance the character based on what they do rather than trying to homogenize the character so they're all the same at the end of the day. We're working on adding more characters with diverse abilities to offer a broader gameplay experience. However, we believe that this also requires more varied content. Also very true. Currently, the content is divided into two main types: intercept battles and then exterminations, which involve destroying monsters. As a result, characters optimized for these two contents types are highlighted. Yes, you need a Haley and you need a Bunny or a Freyna, and that's kind of where we're at. We think it's necessary to diversify the types of content to allow for more range of characters. Absolutely true. At the same time, we are carefully testing new content to avoid creating an environment where new characters feel required. So hopefully this ends up working well for them. But again, like I said, if they add like true horde mode, if they add like payload where you have to defend a cart, or if they add boss rush mechanics or elite battles, or all kinds of things, then certain characters that are good at those things will start being more and more useful, and you'll start seeing them more often. So hopefully they can do this correctly and make this all come together. Feedback: current dungeons are repetitive and lack new challenges to enemy types. I would agree with this, especially after your first 100 or 200 hours. I think that it's good enough to start. It's good enough for a baseline. It was good enough for launching the game, but now there's definitely not enough variety in the content that we do. We need dungeons that are more challenging and require strategic thinking. This is an interesting feedback because everyone says they hate puzzles, but then now they want strategic thinking, as there is currently a lack of content to challenge core players. The response is the dungeons in Season 2 will feature new types of monsters. We also recognize the need for more challenging endgame content, so we're preparing a range of endgame experiences for Season 2, adding higher difficulty special operations and intercept battles. Hard mode intercept battles would be quite cool, like actually hard mode, not like a global difficulty, as well as content that gradually increases in difficulty to challenge the toughest stages. So we need like survival from Warframe, basically. We need something that's a little bit harder and a little bit more engaging than what we have, and we're slowly working our way there. Feedback: we need large monsters. Currently, they're only small, normal, and medium monsters. We'd like to see Vulgus mobs with weak points that can be targeted. So they want like Colossus light in the open field. I feel like there would be issues with them getting stuck on things and not being able to path correctly, but it would be really cool if they added more of those to it. They could even do like stationary monsters that are pretty big and scary. We'll take the idea of large Vulgus that have weak points into consideration, discuss with the relevant departments, which means it's probably not going to happen. We recognize the perception of a lack of large monsters in mission dungeons and are also mindful of level design constraints. Huge, yeah. So like pathways, doorways, walkways. If it's a monster that doesn't move, like they could do, plenty of RPGs do this. It's like the room monster where they're only like hips upward and they don't move, but they swing and attack and stuff like that. They could totally do that for certain encounters for missions and dungeons. But I think if they made like Colossus size, or even like half the size of a Colossus, the monsters would bug out, get stuck on everything, be unable to move. And I think there's a big reason why the Colossus are only in the Colossus Arena, and even in the Colossus Arena, Colossus destroy any obstacles that they walk into. If there's a big pillar in the way, they obliterate it and keep walking, because otherwise they would get stuck on it. Feedback: the boss attack patterns and combat style are somewhat monotonous. We hope to see void intercept battles with more complex patterns. We're striving to balance adding complexity to patterns to increase difficulty while ensuring they remain intuitive for players. I think that the Deathstalker update, which is they're about to say this, update aligned well with this goal. I would agree. I think Deathstalker is a step in the right direction. Good mechanics. It does require you to play differently than you would with other bosses, build differently than you would with other bosses, and you have to pay attention. You have to jump over the waves, plan your positioning, change your elevation, be aware of what's going on. And I think that if they keep doing Deathstalker-like void intercepts, or even go further with more mechanics, I think they could definitely hit that requirement or hit that desire from players as well. We'll continue updating intercept battles by adding new patterns, ensuring they're both intuitive and strategically fair. We'd like to see a stronger emphasis on the importance of co-op play in dungeons. This one's going to be interesting because this can very easily become a double-edged sword. I think especially right now where people they join a dungeon, if they don't see Freyna or Bunny, they leave, or they join a dungeon and they see a Eugen and they leave because they don't want to see a Eugen. I think the further they go into this, the more they can encourage toxic behavior as well as gatekeeping or like dodging or rage quitting. So we'll see how this works. I think the game should be designed, unless it's a specific hard mode encounter, to be played with almost any comp, but I think there definitely can be more emphasis on co-op play, that sort of thing. But I don't know. I think they should tread lightly on this one. It could very easily, in a game like this, become a very serious detractor from the experience. But their response is, we understand that there are mixed feelings about the emphasis on co-op play. Dungeons First Descendant are designed to be played solo with the option for smoother and faster progress in a group. We intend to maintain this approach with enhancing co-op synergy, which we believe should be supported by player abilities and content difficulty. Currently, the lower difficulty of content may make the need for co-op less apparent, but as we introduce more challenging content, we anticipate the demand for co-op play will grow naturally. And I think this works well. I mean, like I said, if you're running Deathstalker and you have a well-made Eugen or a well-made Ajax or both in the group, you're gonna feel that and be very appreciative of that. So I think the content difficulty can encourage more co-op play without requiring it. Feedback: improve the structure of amorphous outpost farming methods. Absolutely, outposts are one of the worst farm experiences in the game. You can do a dungeon in 4 minutes and get 2 amorphous materials. You can do a outpost for 2 hours straight and get no amorphous materials, or get the wrong amorphous materials. I think this is a big point that they needed to address sooner rather than later. And they respond with, we agree that the farming and opening methods for amorphous materials in outposts, fragments, and reactors needs improvement. I think the reactors are fine. It's just the outposts that suck the most. Outposts are just terrible. You're dependent on our RNG, and you can get screwed for long periods of time. Just jack up the rates, or make it so they respawn instantly, or they're constantly spawning and you're getting them as they're dropping. Something else than what we have right now. Our team has been exploring a variety of ways to enhance outposts, such as implementing a system where players are rewarded after a minute of continuous combat. This would make it feel a lot better, hopefully with higher drop rates. However, we're approaching this carefully, as it may put Sharon players who have less monster killing power at a disadvantage. What? We recognize that the current outpost route is less engaging compared to the infiltration route, and we're firmly committed to making improvements, and then we'll review it and see what we got. So hopefully, I don't know, this is kind of like a wishy-washy, we hear you, we're thinking about it, we'll see what happens. Feedback: remove unnecessary penalties for content, weapons, modules, inversions, etc. Yes, the debuffs are not great. Like, downgrading your character is not, it should always try to lean on making the content harder, and subsequently giving you different buffs to make you feel powerful, like you're rising to the challenge. I think in general, especially in PvE only games, having situations where you're constantly being heavily nerfed or penalized is not enjoyable and not fun. Like, your defense, you have 90% reduced defense for this. Like, yes, that is harder. Indeed, being one shot by things is suddenly harder. Is it fun? Not really. So I think they need to really be careful about when they penalize and have negatives, and a lot of the kiss curse mechanics as well, where they have a big plus that like comes with a huge negative at the same time. The big thing about PvE games is the power fantasy, being able to have some runaway build where you destroy the world, you become some crazy powerful entity. That's the PvE fantasy of why people play PvE games. People don't play PvE games so that they can be penalized and suffer like they would in other games that are a little bit more controlled on the balance front. We are not considering penalties when designing new content. Instead, we aim to provide attribute bonus to encourage a wider variety of use. I think they can just just look at gacha games for this. I think gacha games do this well because in most gacha, especially like gacha RPGs that are more built as action RPGs, those tend to be like they encourage you to have a full roster of characters, which is what they've said as a developer that they want to do for the First Descendant. The way you encourage people to have a large roster of characters is by having difficult content that has rotating buffs, right? And they have some of that now. They just need to get rid of the debuffs, like the penalties that they have. So, you know, chill power Descendants get like double damage for this. And you're like, okay, well, I could do this on my main, which is fire, but I should have a strong chill that I can use in these situations, and you're encouraged to fill out your roster. So I think that is a great direction to go in for them. Not like defense gets reduced or your movement skill gets reduced or your grappling hook has a 30-second cooldown. All of those are just terrible implementations for random variants or mods that apply to a dungeon. Moving forward, we plan to balance content to avoid imposing penalties on participation. We'll also review the penalties on ultimate weapons to make them usable without penalties even at base levels, ensuring a more enjoyable experience. This is more around like general weapons suck on this one or whatever. Instead of doing that, make special rounds weapons do more instead of making general rounds weapons do less, right? Let the player choose whether they're going to benefit or just stay the same, not forcibly take a penalty for using the thing that they enjoy. We plan to retain the plus minus effects for modules as offers an option to maximize positive effects. They just need to, like, they can keep Kiss Curse on modules. They just need to do a better job of balancing it, right? Like they have the Kiss Curse on, for example, like bullet integration or action and reaction, but they need to make sure that the negative and the plus are about in the same league as others, or be careful about the mutually exclusive categorical system that they have, right? Regardless, action and reaction has been in like every single weapon build since the launch because the number is so freaking high on the firearm attack and the negative is not that impactful relative to others that it ends up just being one of the best modules in the game. And I think part of that comes down to a game designer sitting down and balancing these properly so that we can actually have more variety in the builds that we use. Alongside the plus minus effect, we also introduce plus effect modules, providing players with even more customization options. Feedback: consider adding accessibility options for visually and hearing impaired players, and they did this with the vaults. They made them directional and things like that. So they are kind of doing this correctly and they're moving that right direction. Feedback: the events have been held or are currently ongoing aren't very engaging. Their words aren't sufficient. Current events are repetitive. Very true. We're running web events to offer a wide variety of event experiences and plan to enhance accessibility by complementing them with in-game event features. We aim to provide various in-game events such as attendance checks and event store, so they're going to add all the normal goodies. And I think these systems are very well solved by other games and can be very easily implemented, and I think they can very easily get them right. So hopefully with season 2 and new updates, we'll see a lot more positive like attendance rewards, login rewards, bonuses, better challenges and missions, that sort of thing. Feedback: we'd like to see special rewards like character skins. That would be very cool, or weapon skins, potentially for weapons that people actually use. We're always carefully considering event structures and rewards. As previously mentioned, we're planning to introduce new event features, and along with growth items, materials, and currency rewards, we're exploring other options, including character skins. So they said they might do it. They're thinking about it. They're planning it. So it might happen where we can actually get skins. We're currently, at least from the vendor ETA 0, getting dyes, which is kind of nice. Dyes and hair colors. So I think that's going to help a lot. And doing more of these would be super great. But again, they just, more skins in the game, more content, especially free ones that you can get, will go a long way. Feedback: there's a lack of incentive to obtain ultimate weapons, and they currently lack uniqueness. We'd like to see more polish. I mean, this part is true. Lack of incentive to obtain ultimate weapons. I wouldn't say that's the case. I would say, a good 30 to 40% of the ultimate weapons in the game are all worth getting and incredibly powerful. So maybe this is just a translation thing where they mean that not all of the ultimate weapons are worth getting. We would like to see new firearms to diversify options and a rework to make the existing firearms feel more distinctive. They have been doing an awesome job reworking old weapons to make them feel better. They have been doing a subpar to terrible job making new weapons feel good. I think that whoever's doing the reworks need to be doing the new weapons as well, because that's very disparate. Like Excava, Sigvor's Proof, Frostwatcher, they all feel very meh, but all the reworks have been pretty good overall. So I'm hoping that realistically the new weapons, maybe they're just afraid of making new weapons too good, but in general I think that they have the capability of doing it, they just need to do it more often. They say we plan to rebalance ultimate weapons in season 2 to give players a broad broader choice based on their preferences. Additionally, we'll continue to add ultimate weapons with interesting stats and effects to make them more worthwhile to collect. Sounds good. Let's see if they deliver. Feedback, we'd like to add support for zooming in and out with firearms. We've discussed introducing weapons with an ADS, aim down sight system, to enhance firearm experience. I think the best thing to take away from this, by the way, is having scope distances. There's definitely a problem with having a fixed distance on weapons that have a zoom in, or even just basic ADS, like, you know, you're using piercing light or using afterglow sword. Having a fixed scope distance can make it hard to snipe up close or really far away. So being able to toggle the distance on that, either with a scroll wheel or, you know, tapping the zoom, or, you know, other options for the controller, maybe using like the directional or something like that, can go a long way to making those feel better at multiple distances, which the First Descendant does have. Since the First Descendant is optimized for fast-paced run-and-gun combat with less need for precise shooting mechanics, this idea is currently on hold. Sad. We believe it's more important to focus on creating engaging firearm effects and iconic dream weapons rather than precise controls. I think this is true, but it should be something that they should look at. I don't think it'd be too hard for them to add a variable scope feature, especially for the scoped weapons, and it would go a long way, especially on console, because the distance of your scope, you can change the parameters for the auto aim features, and the systems in that allow you to control what you're aiming at without sandpapering or locking on or sliding off, things like that. So I think they could definitely do that for the scoped weapons, and it would be a good short-term win for them, and then they can focus on making the new guns very, very cool. Feedback, we would like to add a feature to adjust the type and number of secondary options for reactors. We don't support readjustments since reactors only have 2 options. But we've seen a lot of feedback about this. We're considering increasing the reactor options to 4 or raising the cost of readjustments with further details. Interesting. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what this means. I think the reactor system in general just needs a lot more overhauling. The implementation they have now is a nice stopgap, but it doesn't solve the core problem. It's just a band-aid to fix the issue. So hopefully we'll see more in the future about reactors and making those better. Feedback, we'd like to add crafting of rare reactors for better build variety. And they respond with the reactor implement system is in 1.1.6. It is an improvement. It doesn't solve the core problem, but it is an improvement. We have noticed the feedback about the consumable material and cost for the implant. Thank God, I was literally just about to say this. The cost for implanting a reactor is astronomical right now. It is very, very expensive to do. We will review the data and, if needed, increase ways to earn more materials. Our direction for reactor improvements includes optimizing the rotating system to simplify farming for ultimate reactors and creating an environment for more interesting builds by introducing new reactor tiers in the future. We'll see how this goes. It seems like they don't think that it's too expensive. I mean, it seems like they don't want to lower the amount of farm that's in the game now, but I think that I don't know. This might just be a constant battle between the players and the developers on the reactor system in general. Player suggestion 1, feedback, add more ways to obtain modules. They already did that. Now the combined only modules have places that they drop. I had a person in my chat yesterday that had not gotten shot focus after thousands of combinations, and then they got shot focus on the first drop as soon as they made this change. So that's pretty good. Feedback, increase the performance of dedicated Transcendent modules. We'll review the performance of underutilized modules and adjust them in the future. So hopefully this just works across. And I think they could probably add more modules per character as well. Like an extra Transcendent per character would be really great, because just make them more interesting, because a lot of them are very useless in what they do. Feedback, add a feature to delete or dismantle modules from the inventory. This is huge. This would be awesome. Currently, it has been improved at the 1.16 update, so Transcendent module drops are sent to Lost and Found. If you already have 1,500 modules, after this patch, we will further assess whether an inventory delete function is necessary. I would love to see a feature where you can just, like, I don't know, set the parameters and just loot and play. To me, when I sit down to play some like grindy game, I like the annoying things to be minimized and to be focused on getting on the treadmill and running, right? Like working towards your goal. Having to stop constantly to constantly menu and check things and read things and do things is to me, I think not a good system that should stay in a game. Yes, it extends the time that people are required to do activities and it makes them stay in the game longer because they have to do these things. But I think that a lot of grindy games like Lost Ark or Path of Exile have solved this in good ways where you focus on the grind gameplay, not on the bookkeeping and management of items in a really positive way. So it seems like they're happy with just this small change and not that, and hopefully they keep reassessing that in the future, but we should keep on them about this because I think this could go a long way. Feedback, add an auto combine feature for modules. We understand the need for this feature and are currently preparing improvements. We plan to include it in a hotfix. Okay, cool. I think that you should just hit a button on the combine screen and say, hey, combine duplicates. Don't make me click through all of them one by one and get it. And sounds like they're on board with that and they're going to work on that. And we might have that sooner rather than later when they say that it'll be included in a hotfix. Feedback, add functionalities to the search function for modules and inventory. Add a dismantling filter feature with an and condition. We believe the more quality life improves like these, the better. And yeah, I think everyone agrees this is good stuff. They add more stuff like this, I think it'll just make the game better. Feedback, currently customization options for characters are limited. We'd like to see more options for appearance elements. E.g., we hope to have a wider selection of hairstyles, such as long, short, and unique styles. I think they can solve this with multiple skins. It would be nice to be able to, toggle visors or helmets or, change, draperies and things like that, but they could definitely just add more skins. We know the players have a strong desire for customization. Our internal data shows particularly high demand for appearance options like hairstyles, so we're going to expand our art team's capacity to produce more. Sounds good. Problem solved. Feedback, allow us to dye the default character appearance. Answer, we've listened to your requests, and with the start of Season 2, both Descendant, Normal, and Ultimate Descendant default appearances will be dyeable. We apologize for the delay in implementing this highly requested feature. Additionally, as noted in previous update notes, dedicated spawns and back attachments will become shared items starting in Season 2. So these current Ultimate packs where they are only usable by one character, they're going to make those items available to all characters as they should. And they also have committed to making the default looks dyeable, which means that even if you don't own a skin, you can dye the default look in good ways, which I think is awesome. That's just a win for everybody. Feedback, the limited selection of skins makes it hard to customize as desired. Release more skins with both casual and unique themes. I mean, yeah, that we want more skins is great. That's right. Our data shows that skins that have a wide variety of themes are very popular. This one, I don't even know why this is a feedback point. Make more skins and they say, yep. Okay, moving on. The customization system isn't very user-friendly, and the process for changing character appearances is complicated. It's not the best, but it's not that bad. Having a slot-based, like, paper doll system for customization is not really all that intense. I would say that the feedback should be more targeted towards the dye system. I think the dye system is very archaic and difficult, and they should just give us more options for doing colors on our own with costs for every time we dye, rather than having preset colors that we have to earn individually. I don't think the customization system is all that bad, but let's see what they say. We anticipate more usability improvements. Yeah, so we don't like it's not very user-friendly. Okay, we make better. Adjusted the twisted worship outfit in the customization menu. So this was really, I guess this is a thing in Korea. I have never heard people complain too much about the mud flaps, but I guess the mud flaps was a huge, like, very serious issue in some communities. The idea that the twisted worship sexy nun had mud flaps blocking her gluteus maximus. I guess this was the highest priority thing for them. We have actively taken this suggestion on board and implemented in the 1030 update. We've added a redesigned body skin to the existing product, and new purchasers will receive both the original and the updated skins. The revised version will also be sent. I'm wondering if they're going to implement this in the future where all skins will have an option to, like, reveal more boob window and reveal more cheek. Moving on. Feedback. Make character skins in the battle pass and skins for the firearms that players frequently use more appealing. Yes. This is huge because they keep making skins for guns that people don't use or are generally just bad. We've received a lot of feedback about the battle pass during the preseason and Season 1 and Season 2. We plan to look into adding Descendant skins and popular firearm skins. They also just, like, it seems kind of weird that they're giving us skins for the blue weapons, which you can only really use in the first half of the story on normal. You can't really use blue weapons because they're so unbelievably weak compared to every other weapon in the game. So making content for those feels weird. I think they probably need to make some way that you could turn a blue, like upgrade a blue weapon into a purple version or an ultimate version of the same weapon, so that we can use those skins and be proud of it, rather than skins that we just never will access because the content they're applied to is utterly useless. Feedback: we just want to buy skins without bundled packages. It feels excessive. The price for skins enhancement materials are too high. Both of these are very, very true. Response: we've listened to your feedback, and the team and business units have agreed to sell all cosmetic items, skins, spawns, back attachments, chest attachments, etc. separately. So they will allow you to buy these as separate. I mean, the price is another thing as well, but the way they phrase this reinforces the idea that it sounds like the marketing team and the business unit has been driving the store and some of the acquisition, whereas the core development team, which is technically not Nexon, they're like a subsidy, like a sister studio of Nexon, but Nexon is the publisher and parent dev kind of situation. It sounds like the dev team didn't really have any say in the pricing and release of the store and items, and it sounds like they've had a conversation between the Nexon business unit and the core Magnum folks. They've agreed to sell all cosmetic items separately, which is great. This policy will go into effect at the start of Season 2. So if you want a back attachment, a teleport from one of the ultimate bundles, you'll be able to buy it separately rather than having to buy the $100 bundle or the $60 if you already own the Descendant in order to get that as an item. Feedback: are there any plans to sell retired skins again, or are they truly off the market? So this is like the rotating skins in the store. They haven't yet brought back a single retired skin, so we don't know what their stance is until now. Many players have requested the sale of retired skins. While we are carefully considering changes to the store display for regular sales, we decided, in coordination with the dev team and our business team, to change our policy for upcoming skins to be available for regular sale, except for certain seasonal event skins. So holiday skins, like the Halloween skins and the I can only imagine how like the sexy elf and like Santa helper Christmas skins we're going to get in this Gunner game that are going to come. Those will be only for those holidays, but in general, like all the ultimate skins that rotated out of the store, I'm guessing the schoolgirl skins that they had in there, possibly like the panda and things like that. For former skins, we plan to add previously retired ultimate Descendant skins as individual items that were previously in a pack. It sounds like they won't return the ultimate bundle to what it was, but they'll bring back the skins that were in that bundle for individual sale, which I think is a fair trade-off. I think having holiday skins is fine, and having those only available during the holidays is fine. And I also think that they can have skins that are exclusive or time limited that they specifically say are time limited. But I think in general, they should be very careful about how often they leverage the scarcity urge in marketing to get people to buy things. And it sounds like they're kind of on that boat as well. Feedback: add the ability to use surplus materials to craft amorphous materials. We'll continue adding new systems to make use of surplus materials, similar to how ETA provides an opportunity to exchange surplus blueprints for other items. Our plan is to support utilizing surplus materials, currency, and other resources in innovative ways. Sounds good. Keep working on it. Keep going down that road. Feedback: servers optimization and lag. We experience a lot of stuttering lag, especially in co-op play. They also have been having a rising crashing issue. If you're someone that's been experiencing crashing on any of the consoles or on PC, I've been hearing a lot more reports of people crashing in this game. There's definitely optimization issues that need to be addressed, and in general, this is going to be an ongoing issue, especially for the Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine, as great as it is, as widespread as it is, it does come with its own issues around hitching, caching, loading, shaders, things like that are just come part of the Unreal Engine, and hopefully they can address that and keep making that better. But it's an ongoing thing, because as they add more content, they need to make sure the content performs properly, that sort of thing. Feedback: trading system. Players can't freely trade items with each other. To be honest, we're taking a conservative approach to the trading system, as our current priority is live service stability and improving content satisfaction. We don't think it's the right time to introduce it yet, but we'll continue to evaluate its feasibility. To be honest, I'm on the fence about this one. I think with the vendor and the events, as long as there's a good, like, I would much rather them implement the relic trading from Warframe, where if you're in a party, you can choose from the amorphous material drops from the people in your party and trade in the moment. I think that's a much more poignant and meaningful system than just being able to straight trade with anyone forever you want. I think making the pity system like amorphous material trading system and like drop trading systems with people that you're immediately playing with, I think that would be more of a positive add to the game than pure trading. But I can certainly see a world where trading, like player trading, goes well. I can also see a world where player trading goes very poorly and ends up ruining the game based on how it's done and what people can charge and all of that. Add a system or space to display own Descendants like figurines. Oh boy. Yeah, they could definitely add like player housing, like an instance player housing where you can display achievements and things like that, or you can hang out with other people and you can do all your gooner poses together with your friends and alone in a room and ERP, I guess, I don't know. We think this is a great idea, and similar suggestions have come up internally, though we don't have a specific plan. However, it's under consideration as a medium to long-term project. So I think they could definitely do like your own personal housing. A lot of games do this. It's usually in a good state. Feedback, we want a photo mode. We'd love to add this feature internally as well, but it's difficult to say when it might be feasible. We'll review it further and make sure we keep you updated. I mean, realistically, the skin preview mode they have right now is pretty close to a photo mode. Now, I think what they're thinking about doing is like a full photo mode where it pauses time and you can move around and things like that. But realistically, right now, if you're on the skin customization screen and you click the preview button, it'll go in world and show your skin locally on your client only, and you can zoom around. I think that's kind of what people want, is they just want more of a free camera that they can use to look around without being locked to their character movement, animation, and controls, or striking poses, which a lot of other games have done as well. So they say, we're interested in hearing your thoughts on the dev team's responses. For any other questions we couldn't answer today, we'll do more Q&A in the future. Season 2 scheduled for release on December 5th. So a day before Path of Exile Early Access, you'll be able to play the Season 2 launch of this. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on TFD to figure out what are they going to do for Season 2? Because I think that there's a lot of people that are very in love with this game and they're hoping for a big Season 2 launch with a lot of content, a lot of cool stuff going on. Because I think if Season 2 is about as strong as Season 1 was, it's going to be really bad for the game, because Season 1 was pretty weak overall, content-wise, availability-wise. It was kind of a rushed short-term season because it came out right after the game launched. But if we're getting 2 new Descendants, a new Ultimate, a Mega Dungeon, pets, companions, all of these new systems, quality of life features, returning skins, all of these things, being able to package items differently in the store. It sounds like it's going to be a pretty great season, but let me know what you think about all this down below. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.